Alright, hey guys, Matt Lighty here, and this video I just want to talk going over all of the quality of life teasers they're doing leading up to 3.27, Keepers of the Flame, aka Breach 2. Oh, I heard baby dog bark. And yeah, I was waiting for today for them to do the final one before the live stream tomorrow. They might do one before the live stream, but the fact this was called Honorable Mentions makes me think that their spoiler season is over and this is the end. So we're going to watch them all together, and then we're going to go over if they're good, why they're good, where they could do better, and then some loose impacts for them, basically. So, yeah. How loud is this going to be?
Mark Roberts.
All right, that's pretty loud.
Game director on Path of Exile.
Perfect.
In the coming days, we'll be covering a series of quality of life improvements coming in the Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame expansion.
Coming.
Heist is a mechanic which has long frustrated some players who may otherwise have been interested in the rewards it has to offer, but have no desire to grind through the early progress of finding and running low-level contracts to get all the rogues to their maximum level. Well, starting in 327, Heist rogues will automatically begin at maximum level, so you can start your dubious criminal career without all the busy work. Keep an eye on the upcoming news.
Okay, so that's the first change. The change is nothing more than your Heist rogues start at level 5 versus 1 to level them to 5. I've done more Heist than most people in this world by a pretty large amount. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in the top 100 people globally for running Heist in some way. This change really does nothing. And it might be a barrier to entry for some people, but those people are wrong, and I'll tell you why. This really just saves you about 2.5 hours at most. A little annoying at most, right? What this doesn't do, this doesn't unlock your rogues. You still have to unlock your rogues. This doesn't run your quest contracts. You still have to do your quest contracts. This doesn't help you at all for reveals. This doesn't help you at all when vendoring artifacts you've stolen. This doesn't help you at all, which is the most important one, when plotting out your grand heists. All the parts of heists that I would say, if I had to put them all in a bag, all 10 of the things that need to be updated in Heister, I would say want to be updated. This would have been like the lowest and least important, the lowest hanging fruit. So is this quality of life? Yes. That's the first check. That's one of the 3 things we're discussing. Is this impactful? No, not really. If you weren't doing Heist because of this, you weren't doing Heist for the wrong reasons. This would have really only saved you about 2 hours. And realistically, this doing all your leveling got you Wakano unlocks, and you're going to have to run regular contracts anyway. Like it's actually like a false level of thinking it saves you time, because you're still going to have to do contracts to get the wing unlocks to even do Grand Heists. So like you got a chunk of those by leveling people. You're still going to have to go back and do them. You don't have Wakano reveals, right? So it's like, or Gianna reveals or counter-thaumaturg reveals from, Niles. Like you still have to go back and do those. So this really isn't saving you, but maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. So is it quality of life? Yes. Is it impactful? Absolutely not. But it's only a positive. It's just like the weakest, least important part of that you could do. All right, so that's the Heist one. The next one is passive tree full refund.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, game director on Path of Exile. Starting in 327, points invested into your Atlas passive tree will now be refundable with gold. Just speak to Kerak to do so. You'll also find that there is now an option to instantly refund your entire tree. Of course, we've extended this feature to your regular passive tree when you respec with gold with Faustus as well.
What you don't know.
Now you can make all your decisions with no regrets. Well, maybe some regrets. Keep an eye on the upcoming news.
Okay, so 2 things to note here. Thing number 1 is, yes, this is cool at surface level to be able to totally respec your Atlas passive and respec your passive tree. The passive tree is much more important. Seldom are you respecing your entire Atlas passive, but the amount it costs to do this is atrocious. So 580k gold to refund a character is wild, right? That sucks. Gold pressure is already terrible. That's a crazy amount. The fact that you could only do this with regrets is a bummer. I think they're probably going to just remove regrets and remove unmakings from the game and make it so you have to do everything with gold, which I really don't like. Or, so that would be the bad case scenario. In a vacuum, I think could be good, but if gold rates don't change, this is just bad. 500k gold is a lot for a lot of people. That's if you can't play that often or aren't doing, only about 30% of strategies when it comes to PoE actually net remotely good amounts of gold. So if we don't massively up the amount of gold we're getting, that's a horrendous amount. That's a horrendous price to pay. I would never pay that amount of gold. I would always pay that amount in regrets. So if we are getting baseline across the board 10 times gold next league, and we get gold from more places, perfectly fine. No complaints, amazing. Otherwise, that's a fucking bummer, and I'm just going to use regrets. Or if they remove regrets and I have to do this, it's just a bummer. So this is the thing where it's like, is this quality of life? Possibly. Is this good for the game or positively impactful? We have to wait to see in patch notes because I'm never doing this. There's no way I would ever do this in solo self-found when unmakings and regrets exist. 0% chance. The cost is egregious. So interesting, but I'm curious, what that's going to lead towards. Next is stack deck improvement. Stack deck improvement.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. At the end of a long mapping session, you might have built up a pile of stacked decks, and opening them one by one can be a little daunting. In 3.27, holding down Control and right-clicking on stacked decks will now continuously open them into your inventory, outputting the card you got in chat. To still get the dopamine from your loot filter, you can also hold down Shift to open them directly onto the ground. Good luck!
Okay, so great change. Is it quality of life? Yes. Is it impactful to the game? Yes. However, there's two things to think about here. One thing they already talked about, which is they changed how it displays the chat. It exports it not to the chat, but to the over chat. That was changed to just be the chat box. Otherwise, you couldn't actually review it if you wanted to look back. So that was fixed. Or they commented on that. The second thing is everyone was thinking when they're doing this, oh yeah, but I can't filter them. You can clearly with this system. However, for those who have never opened up stack decks, there's something that's not showcased in this video that is to be considered. And that is he is standing still doing this. You can't stand still and open up more than like 30 stack decks. Why? Because the items physically occupy space on the floor and they're going to be eventually fill up the entire invisible space around your character, and it's going to not work unless it breaks the normal rule for doing that and displaces them cascadingly outwards for perpetuity, which is not how it works for any other items in the game. So the same way that if you try to manually drop 40 stack decks in your character, it'll say you don't have enough room and you're going to have to walk 10 feet to the right. If you still have to do that, kind of a bummer. But in no way is this negative from what I can tell, and it can't be negatively impacted. So I would say this is yes, quality of life, and yes, a strictly positive change, although I have more questions about how it technically operates because of how the game is coded with floor items, but that's another thing altogether. So overall, that's the first, I would say, thumbs up where I don't have any suspicious questions. All right, next.
Hi,
Mass
I'm
ID.
Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. Late in 3.26, we added the ability to talk to Helena to mass identify your gear at the cost of Scrolls of Wisdom. Now, in 3.27, from late Act 1, you can mass identify your items at an NPC in every town.
My help is yours. Watch yourself.
Yes.
And from Helena in your hideout. This no longer requires Scrolls of Wisdom. Keep an eye on the upcoming...
Okay, so currently you can control left click Helena. It eats your ID, wisdom scrolls and IDs everything equal to the amount. And in the update, it's not going to cost wisdom, so you could do it free. That's a great change. Fantastic. I do think it's a precursor for them removing wisdoms. And I like it if we have the option to use wisdoms in settings, because if they don't, right? And if they were to remove wisdoms, that means you can't ID items in maps, and that sucks because then you can't use filters to check variable rolls on rares, which is kind of a bummer. So assuming this is just an addition to the game and nothing else fundamentally changes with wisdoms, or we don't lose the ability to identify items in maps or identify items individually, that's fantastic. So is it quality of life? Yes. Is it positive? As of right now, yes. But I am, again, keeping an eye on the future because it has some leery implications for the overall way that we identify items in PoE. And I don't want to have to, the thing I definitely don't want to do is have to leave my map to identify it and forced to do that. You know, that would be a bummer. So overall, fantastic. Next is the Spectre improve. This is the most controversial one. And if you don't understand why, I'll explain it in detail, but it's a big one.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. In 327, the souls of your fallen spectres will now linger with you when they die, and on entering a new area, will automatically resume their normal spectral form. This means you no longer need to resummon a spectre that has died, unless you want it back in the area it died in. This includes spectres from itemized corpses, so you don't need to purchase new ones every time they die. Once you've made a spectre friend, you're friends forever. Unless, of course, you don't want them. Summoning a new spectre will still overwrite existing ones. Keep an eye on the...
Okay, so is this quality of life? Yes. There is no downside to this being in the game in a vacuum if you're blind, dumb, and deaf. But what does this mean? Well, a couple things. First off, this is not remotely a buff to playing Spectre builds because there's no scenario where if you're playing Spectres, this is beneficial. If you're like, oh, Lighty, how could that be? I'll explain. So as of right now, in the game right now, so before this update, if your Spectre dies, you have to now resummon your Spectre by desecrating and getting the corpse in the ground again, which you could absolutely do. You can get the corpse again, you can do it and get it back. And you still have to leave the instance or do it if you've snapshot the Spectre corpse and all that jazz. You still have to leave the instance. This thing only gets the Spectre back if you changed instances. So if you're in a map or doing a boss, that's one instance. Okay. So if I walk into a map and my Spectres die, I still have to leave the map to either resummon them or to let them naturally resummon from changing instances. So there's no way you're just going to walk around doing no damage. So for playing a Spectre build, this doesn't change anything, right? It's not going to be, there's no scenario where it's like, if I'm in a boss fight and my Spectres are dead, I have to then leave the boss fight to either get them back, or I could manually get them back in the instance by targeting corpses, which they did just showcase in this exact same way. That process hasn't changed, okay? So if you're mid-boss fight or mid-instance, that's not changing. If your Spectres are dying, you've already got problems, okay? So this doesn't really do shit for Spectre builds. But what this does do, and which is, I think, you can either take it as a positive, you can take it as a negative, is this is, I think, going to be a massive change for all builds. In the same way that Animate Guardian was. And if you don't know what that change was and you weren't using it, you're just missing out. This is going to be the equivalent to this upcoming league, assuming the Spectres themselves don't get changed, to like playing Merc League without a Merc. It's going to be actually more intense than that. Because there's no downside, since Animate Guardians operate the same way. If they die in an instance, they don't lose their items, they just come back next instance, okay? There's no reason for every single build to not have an Animate Guardian and an Affliction or a Spectre. There's no reason you wouldn't have them. Because if you're playing any build that is going to be just blasting maps, clearing off screen, you're going to have not just one Spectre, but probably 3-4 Spectres. You're going to be running a Wraith Guard to have 6 Spectres. Because there's such a tremendous upside to having them, and the downside is basically nothing. They're not making the content harder like Mercs were. They're not making it so enemies have 20% and bosses have 50% increased life. There is no downside. If they die, that's fine, and the socket pressure in general is quite low these days. Most builds aren't using more than 12 sockets. You have ample sockets, at least 6 to 8, to allocate to having a broken Animate Guardian setup and a broken Spectre setup. So what kind of Spectres can you have? Well, you can get things like Onslaught, Culling Strike, Wrath, every Purity, movement speed, attack speed that stacks with Onslaught, but technically is an Onslaught, Curses autocast, you can have Fortify, you can have different levels of Culling Strike, all for free on every build, basically. That is the type of ridiculousness. There was a Reddit post that was actually going over this, I think a little bit last night. Let me try to find it. Yes, this guy goes over it a little bit, and he says some of the things I've talked about already, but you could do there's the level of degeneracy is pretty crazy. You can have, all of these buffs, for basically free on some builds, or you can have offensive buffs or charge generation. So I think it's going to be, if they're depending on how they treat the perfect specters from Affliction, and there's there's so many questions in the air. Ultimately, is this quality of life? Yes. But is the implications of this change positive for the game? It is going to be one hell of a very wonky meta coming up that might feel very similar to Mercleague. And that could be why they did it, is that they didn't want people to feel like they've lost their mercs in some way, I guess, because everyone's going to be walking around, especially in Trade League. And SSF is a little bit hard to set up, but in Trade League, there's no excuse to be not walking around with an Animate Guardian that's fucking yoked and multiple Spectres that are giving you multiple buffs, okay? Because you're going to have so much additional oomph from that sort of stuff. And if they die, you lose them. Again, the enemy doesn't get harder because you've had them out. It's just a very minor amount of investment on your end, like a couple sockets you wouldn't be allocating anyway. So it's an interesting change, but it really opens up a Pandora's box of build shifting. None of them are as build defining as Mercs were in what they offer, whether it's from Animate Guardians or Spectres, but they do offer just way fucking tons of damage and offense and defenses in a variety of ways. So if you're not doing that, you will be kind of throwing, especially in trade. Again, unless they totally shadow nerf Spectres, or maybe they light nerf Spectres in patch notes and being like, they might include a line that says like, we've adjusted how perfect Spectres, their spawn rates from Affliction and what sort of things they offer. You can only have one at a time. They're tagged differently, and fuck you. So if they do something like that, everything I'm saying is moot. But if they don't, then you're going to be hitting Trade League and you're going to be getting your, 20 divine, whatever Spectres, one of each of them. You don't have to buy them once. They're there forever. But then it's just like, that's like, we're back to spending double our builds, amount of currency on Spectres and Animate Guardians. It's like, okay, sure. So that's that. Anyway, enough of that. Finally, we have quality of life, honorable mentions. This was bullshit because the things in this thing are more important than everything else. They always do this, and it really makes me think like how little they understand the severity of some of the changes in their games, because I don't want to suck myself off, but every time I talk about these things, I'm like, oh, this might happen, I'm like almost always fucking right, going back 12 years, because it's, again, anybody who sees this game clocks these things because they're very obvious, and it's not like it's like, I almost said Nosferatu, what's his name? Nostradamus, but it's just like, these things are really obvious connections here, but these changes are really, really strong in this honorable mentions thing, a lot of them, but some of them are just near misses. So let's watch it together.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. There's a few smaller quality of life changes in 327. Not big enough for their own video, but exciting nonetheless. Let's rapid fire through them. Alteration crafting is now more streamlined. When using Orbs of Alteration, you can now hold Alt, or the gamepad equivalent, to swap to using an Orb of Augmentation if one is available.
Okay, so that says you could hold Alt to swap to Augs, and then let go of Alt and it'll go back to Alts. It's fine. The problem here is, right, so you're with your left hand, you're holding Shift already, because you're doing multiple alterations in a stack on an item. So you're holding Shift, and then you're right-clicking, or left-clicking, or you're clicking on your mouse, and then you have to then toggle Alt with your thumb. It's just like, it's a lot. I don't really know how much I'd be doing this, to be honest. It feels like it's more going to be prone to me fucking up clicking something, so I probably won't do this for the first year of its change, but legally it's, if anything, it's less of a quality of life, more of like a hotkey to, a little cheat sheet, but it's just, yeah, that's a really, really, really minor thing. That one is minor.
When opening Blight chests, you will now open all other Blight chests nearby.
Okay, that one's way more than minor, because previously when doing Blight as content, you effectively had to spec into a caster mastery to not want to fucking hang yourself. So that's big, because you no longer have to have the chest opening mastery. Now, I wonder if, because they're adding this, will they remove the mastery? because this was the biggest mainstay excuse for that mastery to exist. We all loved it for edifice and maybe even for just casually opening up boxes or strong boxes, but I think they might nuke the mastery because they just did this. That's my guess. But this is good. This is quality of life. This is positive. This is great.
Light chest nearby. Rogue's disenchanting services can now be accessed from towns and hideouts. Kerak missions.
Okay, so you used to not be able to access disenchanting except when you're in settlers. You now can. That's a great change. Meaning if you, basically if you're bossing, for those who don't know, majority of boss uniques, which are, most of them are worthless, they will dust for 30 to 400,000, 500,000 dust. Things like Entropics off of Uber Shaper, which you really only need 1 or 2 over slam helmets, 400,000 dust. Every single of the new boss uniques is like 120,000 dust. So if you care about dust, if you care about recombinating, if you care about sending dust for shipments, this is just a strictly beneficial thing. The more time we could stay in our hideout and be mapping, the better. The hideout is lava. You do not want to be hanging on your hideout. You want to be running around town. You want to be bing, bang, boom out. So this is very good. Quality of life, yes. Is it positive? Yes.
And hideouts. Kerak missions now have a handy icon to show at a glance what kind of mission they are.
Okay. Is that the end of that? That is. So this one's weird. I don't really see the point of this because it doesn't tell you if they're like, it doesn't convey remotely enough information that you'll ever have to not still look at them. So 2 of those maps there have a unique symbol. Does that mean they drop a unique, or does it mean this contains unique strongbox? Is ambush unique strong? Like, there's so many questions, right? Or is it going to be like, is Einhar missions going to be shown differently versus whatever missions? Like, it's the specialty missions that matter. No one gives a fuck about Kerak outside of initial Atlas progression, except for the specialty missions, the one that were the memories that he absolved, right? So we're looking for those. And if these don't let you see those, it doesn't matter at all. So is it quality of life? I don't know. It just kind of seems like it's pointless, but that's fine. I think I still have to check them nonetheless. But yeah. We'll see.
Vile orbs can now be used on monsters encased in essences, to the same effect that Remnants of Corruption have. Remnants of Corruption will no longer be obtainable, but any existing ones will still function as before.
So they removed Remnants of Corruption, and now it's replaced with just using a Val. It makes sense thematically. We probably don't need Remnants when it's functionally the same thing. It's a very one-note currency for that mechanic. I get it, but unless Val orbs maybe drop a little bit more, it kind of is a little annoying that they're eating into your Val supply. So if they've increased the overall drop rate of Vals by 5%, then it's perfectly fine. Otherwise, it's a little bit annoying, but yeah, sure. I don't really know if that's quality of life or not. It's just kind of a lateral change, but not offensive, I would say, out the gate.
You'll also no longer need to purchase bestiary orbs, and you can itemize beasts for free from your bestiary. Just control-click on a captured beast to automatically itemize it.
Yep, so that one's massive. This is an absurd change. So if you didn't realize that itemizing beasts cost a chaos each, he just saved himself like, what is that, 25C or something, right? So it's like, this change is huge. It's 1/2, I would say, of the problem with bestiary. So problem 1 was Pokeballing itemizing beasts fucking sucked. Now it doesn't. Boom. That's amazing. Great for the seller market. Great for the solo self-fund market. Yellow beasts have always been a premium. This makes it so much nicer for trade for you guys. Amazing change. Second part of the bestiary problem is that there is a hidden cap to the amount of beasts you can store that is set by types. That number is still not displayed. It has still not been increased. There's still no fix for that. And what you'll get is you'll get a message rarely in chat that says you're about to hit the cap on the amount of stored beasts. What happens if you hit it is it starts deleting the oldest beast and replacing it with the newest one, which you have no control over. So that's still a problem, but that problem should hypothetically be also fixed because you could be managing your beast storage better. So I think overall, this is like one of the larger changes of the patch. It's definitely bigger than some of the things that got their own fucking videos. So this is like really, really big for both trade and solo self-found. That's great. Very good. Very cool. Love it.
Happy hunting! You can now click this button here to level up all gems that are ready to level up in a single click.
Okay, that's great. So that's pretty big quality of life. However, this is, again, like so close to being what people have been asking for, but not quite. If you didn't know, on console, gems can be set to or naturally automatically level unless set to stop leveling. So in this menu right here, they're showing, if you were to right click any of the plus signs next to a gem, it's instead of going to level it, keep it at that level and prevent a level up pop-up. Basically, you know, freezing it in place. If in console, there's an option to just have them automatically level, we don't have to go through this fucking rigmarole. So this is like, yes, this saves me 6 clicks, but why do I have to click at all when console doesn't? You know, it's like it's so close to what people actually really wanted, and it's just a little bit off. Is this better? Without question. Does this make leveling up tons of gems in your swaps level better? Yeah, of course. You have to, on average, level an aura 30 times to hit a plus, 2120 or whatever if you wanted. So that's like, this is going to save you a bunch of clicks. That's fantastic. Is it quality of life? Yes. Is it positive? Yes. But it's so close to being the better version that already exists in one of the other types of this game. So, bummer.
All gems that are ready to level up in a single click. Keep an eye on the upcoming news leading up to the live stream.
Okay, so that's it. That's all the quality of lives we got. Tomorrow is going to be the live stream, and then hopefully after live stream is patch notes. And every single question, comment, and concern I've posed based off of these teasers could be made irrelevant or could be intensified. There's no way to tell. We'll just have to know then. And even then, patch notes in Path of Exile lastly came with 7 amendments that drastically changed the context of huge chunks of them. So realistically, patch notes are really, really shit now, and we're not going to get real patch notes until the day before launch, and even then, large chunks of information will be missing. There'll be shadow nerfs, and there'll be misinformation in the patch notes. So it's like the Wild West now when it comes to PoE. But I will do a video if there's anything important to talk about like we did here, and I'll be on various podcasts coming up, in 3 or 4 of them in different places. So feel free to ask me questions in the comments below, or let me know what you think about these quality of life, quote unquote, quality of life teasers, etc. And anything you thought of that I didn't. But yeah, that's it. Look forward to seeing the reveal tomorrow and then the patch notes. I'm Matt Lighty, and I'll be live for that, and have a good day. Bye-bye.